it's Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and I have an amazing day for you today. In this Acrylic April, I'm going to show you step by step how to do Neo-Expressionism. Now, to help me do that is my husband, John.
Hello.
In this particular video, not only is he pointing the camera at what I'm talking about and teaching the techniques, but he's also helping me work through it, because Neo-Expressionism is maybe the most difficult type of abstract, in my opinion. Right? It is the most difficult to get into. It's the most difficult to embrace. It is, in every sense of the word, challenging. Not that the techniques are hard. I think a beginner can do it. But I think the expression of it is hard. Now, Neo-Expressionism, in its heart, flies in the face of traditional aesthetics. What most of us think is good, or most of us think is pretty or acceptable, it puts that aside and says experience and truth and authenticity is infinitely more important. I definitely was inspired by Jean-Michel Basquiat, because I consider him my favorite artist from the Neo-Expressionist movement, and I know a lot of people do too. And while I definitely was inspired, I was very careful to make sure that I told my story, not his story, right? I took the aesthetic kind of traditional things that we see in the movement. Even though these artists are very different from each other, they had things that you would see again and again and again. And I tried to be really raw and expressive and honest. I think I went a little deeper than I usually do on this channel, a little more raw. You see me really processing, and I really tried to not hide that. And I think that's what this is about. It's an Instagram world, but we don't do that in Neo-Expressionism. We don't gloss over, and we don't stage the lighting, and we don't make it better. This is like going live with no makeup.
Sure,
Just
yeah.
in the morning before coffee. That's where this is. So what I hope to get out of this, I'm going to break this down to you step by step. And what I hope that you'll get out of it is, one, an appreciation for this little understood art movement. There's a lot of interesting stuff online about it. I hope you'll continue to kind of look into it. And I hope the next time you're at a museum, this piece will help you kind of go, not discount it, but maybe stop for a minute and look at things like, what words did the artist cross out? And why maybe did they do that? And what little bits are in and what little bits are out, and when was this created, and how are they feeling? I think that's, if we could get that out of this is great. Check the description down below. There's going to be materials, links to the website, everything you need to do this. So look down there, get those materials. Let's get expressive. Let's go. So on today's project, I'm using an 8x8 canvas. I have Mars Black, Phthalo Green, Burnt Sienna, Cad Yellow Medium, Cad Red Medium, Ultramarine Blue, and Titanium White for the color. We're going to do some really fun techniques. I think I'm ready to jump into step one, John. So one of the great things about abstract painting is that things that we say about what you can and can't do in painting become distinctly not true.
Right.
It's just the best. Now I have just a gessoed surface here. I didn't gesso it with extra gesso. It came this way. Most canvases come this way. So they have a surface preparation called gesso put on them. And almost everything that you buy will have this on it, no matter where you buy it. In fact, it'll say raw if it doesn't, and it will look like it's raw. So don't worry about having to know that. Now I'm going to use a pencil. This particular pencil is a 4B. A lot of times I'll say to you guys, don't use a pencil in your paintings because of structural induced discoloration. In other words, the carbon will come up through the paint and discolor the paint.
Right.
But in abstract painting, that's completely not true. We don't worry about any of those things at all. We can use really unexpected materials. We can break tons of rules. We can work in multimedia in different ways. And so I want to talk about the use of a pencil in a very abstract emotional piece, and also the use of words.
All right.
In art. So this is going to be interesting. I'm going to come here in the upper right. And listen, if you don't want to draw this, that's okay. Because you know what? I'll provide a traceable. And I'm going to make a nice angled line. I'm going to come along and make a little triangle. All right. I'm going to come back and make a line kind of angling back and a parallel one to it. And then another angled line that matches this first one. I think you guys kind of know where I'm going. I hope so.
You're making
House.
a paper bat.
Right. I'm going to make a little house. It's really a cottage.
bird.
Let's call it a cottage.
It's a
right?
walking bird.
I'm going to come back in a little bit on that and maybe come in forward a little bit on that roof.
Definitely a house.
Definitely a house, right?
Okay.
Now I'm going to bring a little bit of land in front of it. I'm not sketching everything. I'm just going to sketch some things. And bring a little line out. Right? So these are lines on our surface, aren't they? That tell us a lot about our world. Make a little roof there. And there certainly should be a window, right? Because, houses have windows. You could put a chimney if you feel like a chimney has value for you. It's not really that important. You can use the traceable here if drawing is also maybe like one of your least favorite things. I'm also probably I think I'm going to draw a rock, another rock, and sketch up some lines that are maybe like grasses. Again, just the graphite. Now on something like this, when you do this, I'll come down here and make some little scribbly lines. The graphite is not permanent. It will get on your hands. It will rub and drag across the canvas. That's okay. When you go to seal it, what you're going to do is you're going to use a spray varnish so that that's all sealed down, or just a varnish, or just don't touch it once you paint it. And don't worry about that because like a lot of the masters did not varnish their pencil. They just expected the buyers and anyone interacting with it to take care of the work.
Right.
So lots of options here for anyone. So it starts to look a little traditional, doesn't it? Except we use this pencil on canvas. Actually, I don't want to put that away yet because I'm going to maybe pencil words. Okay, let's call this step 1. Use the traceable if you don't want to do this part of it. And we'll come back. Now, words. So in art, you can use words, made up words, real words. The use of words in a piece is pretty storied in modern art. A lot of painters that we all really love did. I think a word that I'm going to add to this is home.
Yeah.
And I'm going to write it in kind of an unusual way, right? So that's very noticeable. I could put more words around. I think picking another word maybe about how you're feeling right now. Good or bad. Like just what is your predominant feeling? And conveniently for me, right? And we're going to do some interesting things with this. Ooh, I'm going to add another really powerful word. There. So I have, these are the words that mean something to me. Your words can be different than mine on this piece. Does that seem completely doable for you?
That does.
I think so. I think you have, I was really upset. Is that doable for you? It's not adversarial. This is just where we want to be for this at this stage. We will lose some letters. We will lose some stuff as we paint this. We won't lose all the pencil. We'll make a point of preserving some pencil and painting over other parts of the pencil. It's really about how we want to express ourselves in this painting. Let's come back and I'm going to show you what you're going to do on your next step.
All right.
All right, now in step 3, I'm going to take a 1/2 inch angle brush and I'm going to come in and take a little bit of my ultramarine blue and my cad red together and make kind of a deep red. And I'm going to come to the top of this and I'm going to just paint this roof. I'm going to come down the side. Doesn't need to be perfect by any means. I think I'm going to come around the window as well and I'll paint the door. But you can see that it's not, I might have to paint dark inside there. I might go more blue. There you go. So that's what I'm going to do on that step. When we come back, I'll show you what you're going to do next. This is going to be such a trip for you guys. Oh, this is one where I'm not going to put this at the beginning of it because this is where you need to be like real deep in the program. I'm going to take a little bit of the ultramarine blue and I'm going to add a little burnt sienna to this and maybe even a little Mars black. I'm just kind of trying to gray it. And it's okay that I went over some of that and it's streaked down. We're not worried about those things, right? We're painting something and we are going to actually go across here and put that back in. I like that actually. Pretty happy with that. Then I'll put that door back in. I don't mind that it blurred on me. That's not a huge concern at this stage. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of my blue and I'm going to get a lot of water in it. I mixed it over to my burnt sienna. Right, blue and brown. And I'm going to come here, coming out from here. And as I go over where the fear is, I'm going to paint right over it. It's there. Coming under this with a lot of water. And I'm going to let this really kind of come down. It's going over the home. And I'm going to make some splatters. And encourage some of these drips to come down. Kind of a weird and crazy way. Okay? Now, I want this watery effect to dry before I do the next layer, and I think it's really important to have it dry. So I want you guys to make sure it's dry. I'm going to use my hairdryer, but I'm going to hold it so far back that it doesn't blow my drops one way or the other. And I may even, I kind of want to pull that down a bit where it's not going anywhere. Maybe that goes down. So I'm kind of controlling how the drops are going. So I want this watercolory look right here. Okay. Now let's dry it. When we come back, I'm going to show you what you're going to do next. Now I'm going to use my Posca pen. This is the 1mm in black. You could also use the 3mm, but I want more of a point for this. And I'm going to come back over where I had words. If you didn't have a Posca pen, what you could do, and I'm going to be very scratchy with this. I'm going to be like rough with it. Okay. Where there's lines and design even in the word. Okay. You could use a brush, like a detail brush. All right, so we still have that word there, but that's a different way of looking at that, isn't it? Home is there. I'm going to underline that. So these words are starting to become part of this composition. I'm going to come inside here and kind of architecturally work over the house again. I'm not going to be real neat with it. I just want to come in and create lines with it. Right? I'm just kind of going over my careful lines with lines that are maybe not as careful. I have to watch that I'm not dragging the paint from this paint marker. And again, you can do all of this with a detail brush and your black paint. All right. So you're not stuck having to have, I'm going to go like that, a Posca pen. Why did I do that? Because that that line there, that scribble, that creates energy and attention to that word, and it changes how that word has meaning. Now, some of you might even be kind of guessing, come along here with that little line, and I'm going to bring this down. So what I'm doing is I'm using line to convey image. See how that is?
Yeah.
That draws our eye, and that changes how we observe what we're looking at, right?
That's really cool.
Even our experience of painting it is observed in this. Now, I understand for some of you guys, this is going to be uncomfortable to the nth degree. So don't think that I don't understand that. I get that. That's probably very, very likely true. This sort of deconstruction and this use of word and line in this sort of very brutalist outsider kind of style. It can be like a little like what, but when used correctly, you can convey so much of how you feel and so much of what you're going through in such a meaningful way and really connect on a deeper level. Okay, when we come back, I'm going to show you what you're going to do next. So now I'm going to do an interesting thing here. I'm going to take a hog bristle brush that's clean. I'm going to use this number 18. It's just because they hold a nice amount of water. And I'm going to get some clean water, and I'm going to wet the surface. Now, you know, it may be that the surface doesn't want to wet. And that's okay.
It's resistant.
You may have to, yeah, it
it's
may
hydrophobic.
need some assistance. It might be, sometimes they do a treatment on the surface that does make it hydrophobic, where it doesn't want to take the water, which is super irritating if you're trying to paint. And I'm going to bring this down here, kind of probably through that grass that I've done. And you can see where I've roughly gone over it. It is now taking that water. And I'm going to not paint where that word hopeful is at all. Okay? I don't care if things come far down here in any way. So I've got that all the way down there, and I'm going to pull a paper towel out and crumple it up. Now I'm going to take my phthalo blue, smidge of my burnt sienna, and come here at the top and just paint that right directly into the wet space. And then come down. You can see a little bit of foaming, and that's just because we've got a lot of water. All right. And then I'm going to take this paper towel, and I'm going to tap and pick up the paint a little bit. See that? Maybe even around the word hopeful. See how that subtraction creates almost a sense of,
yeah,
maybe like cloud or something? I can even come back. I'm going to grab my angle brush and maybe darken that up there. Let it kind of soften into that wet area. And I don't worry that it came down through here. That's okay. I want it to do that. That's what I'm looking for it to do, right? That's what I'm trying to get it to come across and do. I'm going to come here and I'm going to take a little bit of my phthalo blue, and not my phthalo blue, my ultramarine blue, and my phthalo green and a little burnt sienna. I'm going to get a little like yellow into that. I'm going to come over where I had that black line with that green. And come back with the yellow into it, just across. See what we've got going there? And I can pick up with the paper towel, but I tend to not, I don't really want to get my hands in the cadmium in any way. So I'm going to leave that alone. We are going to let this dry or hit it with a hair dryer. And when we come back, I'm going to show you what we do next. So now I'm going to take a diamond-headed artist knife. Now I'm grabbing a smaller one just so I can have a little more control over it. And I'm going to get my pure cad red loaded up on a bead on the right-hand side of it, little bead there. And I'm going to come down at an angle, allowing it to sort of skip on the roof. See that where we're going?
I do.
Maybe come a little bit from left to right. I'll go ahead and kind of tap that roof there. So added that strength of that red there. Let me come in and kind of add a little bit of red mark there to that. Then I'm going to bead up. And I'm going to come across this word.
That's very interesting.
So the act of writing a word and taking out the word increases the importance of what the word says. And because I used the color that we have up in this roof to sort of talk about that, it exaggerates that even more. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my white. Come in and add just a little stroke of white there. Resist the temptation to correct things because it's overwhelming. All right. Come here and maybe do some sgraffito scraping away to kind of work that out. I'm going to scrape across this roof.
Sketchy, 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 sketchy.
We're going to go scratchy, scratchy, scratchy. We are. It's true. We are. Now, we're going to call this a step and we're going to come back. We're going to do something else. So, in this inspiration, and I, you know, when you're doing work that is inspired by a master and is inspired by such a pivotal movement like Neo-Expressionism, it is important to take inspiration, but recognize that you have to put yourself into it. So as we're going, we're taking inspiration of the crossing out the words and the use of the house and all of that, right? And we'll put more things in that relate to it. But I think what would be a good idea is to, you know, just sort of tip our hat to Jean-Michel Basquiat, but then also recognize that we are not him. I think that's about the only way through. Now at this stage, I'm going to come back with my marker. And I am going to do some very strange things here. I am not going to use figure, I don't think, as much in this. I'm going to use the home symbolically instead of a face and any of that, just because I feel like that is more relevant to where I am. But I hope that you guys can see how we can, you know, learn from a movement like Neo-Expressionism and still put our own twist on it. I'm just really trying to weight this with, you know, scribbles that we have here. And I think I've got to come kind of work something interesting in with this. I'm going to get my, I'm going to get a small brush out. Let's come back and add to the words. This is a weird day for us. I do not deny it. Come back for a new step. Okay, so I'm going to kind of also emphasize this up here using some of the paint on my palette. So I'm going to use yellow. And I'm going to paint inside some of the words. You know, kind of pulling that inspiration as well. I always like when I'm thinking about like a specific artist, you know, and what they did and how they did it, I always try to ask myself, what can I learn from this without stealing from them? That's what it really is, right? Like when we did the Mondrian, what did we learn from Mondrian without stealing from Mondrian? You know, what can we learn from this work without, you know, taking from the artist specifically? And come around here and sort of paint this in, but rustically, right? Like, and I think another like maybe tribute that I might do here is, it's hard to figure out where we can, I'm going to add a black line there. I know, it's like, I'm going to add a black line there. Let's call that a step, and I'm going to come in and do some things here, I think. I'm going to go ahead and continue with my 1/4 inch angle brush, and I'm going to thickly in impasto add some round shapes here. These are going to be Impressionist poppies. And again, the thing is that when you look at somebody who grew up in New York when Jean-Michel did and had the life that he had, and experienced the different things that he experienced, you know, from racism to not being, you know, accepted by the art world, but yet accepted by, you know, everyone is a street poet, and, you know, how some elements of the art world accepted him, but then what was that meaning, and then his struggling. That isn't my life, right? Somebody can explain that to me and I can empathize with it, but can I understand that in the same way that I understand what it is to be me, right? So when I'm taking inspiration from a body of work like that, I have to pull from me, right? I don't want to pretend to be something that I'm not. I'm going to tap this up and down. So I'm like, what you see here is like the beginnings of maybe like Poppies, right? And that like pulls in this little house, and all of this really pulls from my time in France with my mom. And that's appropriate, because that's part of my life experience. And that's an important thing when we take inspiration from artists. Like if, you know, we're like, oh, I love this element of street art. You have to realize that some things intrinsically belong to them because they had that experience. And I think that that's just my advice to you as an artist. You do what you want to do. But for those of you that like Neo-Expressionism, I hope you like what I'm doing here, you know, and you're kind of taking that in and saying, oh yeah, that's kind of wholly cool. Now I'm going to come back with little black centers. And I'm painting again this very abstractly, so I'm trying not to get rid of the energy and the braveness of the piece. It's so, you know, the raw, look at me trying to find words, because this is this asks a lot of us, is what it does. It does. It asks a lot of me. It will ask a lot of you about just the raw feeling of it. I like that. That's working well. You know, again, we will love, let's go to a new step. We will love elements of our piece, and then we will hate elements of our piece. That will be a true fact. I'm going to come through here, and I'm going to paint in the lines with different colors, kind of like I did up there. I think maybe I'll pull some green down into this as well. And you can see I'm painting pretty thickly and loosely, and it's loosely mixed, and it's a little impasto. That's also intentional. I think this is coming from a place of us being a little bit displaced right now.
I can understand that.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, when you do something like outsider art or Neo-Expressionism, something that really asks you to paint from your experience, from a really authentic place in yourself, it's really important to reach into maybe places that you're putting a good veneer on. And I'm probably trying to put a very good veneer on, you know, my experience with us being a little displaced. And so I think that's why this becomes sort of important in that I'm being truthful with that. And that's probably why that came out, as this is what I'm going through in relationship to home. You know, because what, like how it went down for us, and my feelings about that, and then, you know, going to Ireland and not knowing what that's going to be. I'm adding green through here, I think, again. Let's call it a new step, but I'm not going to dry because I'm just crazy. I'm going to take a little bit of my blue.
Step 12.
Step 12. I'm going to keep using this angle brush. I could probably use the knife, though, if I needed to. But I'm going to use the angle brush, and I'm going to paint really thickly over this paint here. Kind of, again, that red. Sometimes it's hard to paint over wet paint. Absolutely, legitimately it is. And what that's about is you've got to just, you know, use a light touch and allow the acrylic to do what it wants to do, which is to stick to itself. But I wanted to make sure that I had some kind of poppy stuff happening here. Like, so there was a red line through here. I'm going to use some of my bright red really loosely on top of it. Look, I'm just touching it. See how it's just loaded on my brush, almost like an artist knife. And again, you could do this with an artist knife. It wouldn't be bad, and you could totally do it. But you can also paint with a brush like it's a knife. And come here and add a little black to the centers. I like that it's very thick. I very, very much like that it's very, very thick and textural. Now, in this, I am replacing the figurative nature of Neo-Expressionism with the house. That's the human. That's the human in there. That's my human. I'm going to go ahead and add a little red to that window. Maybe some red back into that door. And I've got to think about, like, again, you just look at it and you've got to think about, is this, I'm going to take some white here. This is the quietest I've been.
It is. You're thinking.
I'm thinking
And this
so
is part
hard.
Perhaps you should explain that's part of this. So
that is part of this process, is that you do need to think about it. You do need to, I think doing little studies is okay, but I think for this particular work, sometimes you come in and you design from a fairly raw space.
Yeah.
Right? And that becomes, one of those things. Can you give me a new step? What step is this?
We're now on step 13.
Uh-oh. Well, maybe we have to, we'll go to the step I most fear for my abstract expressionism.
Maybe we'll see where you go.
I'm going to take a little of the burnt sienna and phthalo green. And it's just because I want to pull some green back up here, guys. That's why I'm finding that balance, because the color also has importance. I'm going to pull that there. But I don't want to take out all the line. It's just finding those. Where that home space is.
I really like the flowers on the shore.
Yeah. It's just happening here, isn't it?
It is.
It just is happening here. And I very, very do much like it. But I also am disturbed by it. Okay, just to pull it out of step 13.
You call it a step, then think about it, or are you gonna just ready to go?
I'm gonna call it a step and think about it. So now I'm gonna use a Posca white pen 3mm, and I am gonna come in and also kind of create some lines here that I like. Maybe like around the flowers. In the back here. That creates another like little layer. Look, I'm going to let you guys in on a thing. This is artwork that sometimes in the museum looks angry and haphazard and is difficult to relate to and sometimes genuinely upsetting. But it is a really good expression of what we are as human beings. I'm going to switch over to my other Una Posca 3mm and come back up to my hopeful. Another thing that you might do in this style of art is you get rid of a letter that you put in. You take out elements and you place back in elements. Another element I'm kind of wanting to do, and let's call it another step, because I think to not put it in kind of ignores what it's for and what it's about. So I'm trying to figure out where I want to place this. I'm going to do this here. I'm going to make think about the eye shapes that you made when you were, in school, right? That's just kind of symbolically shaped. And come here and come across. I know it's not pretty, but it is the what you do. So we can't call it that unless we're willing to put ourselves into it in this sort of raw way. Okay, now I'm going to dry that, and we're going to come back and add a little color to it because it needs it. So I need to add some color here. I'm going to take a little bit of the green and the ultramarine blue and some white. Kind of get into a nice little teal. See that right here? And I'm using, again, my angle brush. And I'm painting in some of this face here. Get a little more white on here. Adding a little bit of that line above. I'm going to definitely, I don't know, maybe I'll white Posca pen inside the teeth. And inside the eyes there. And I'm trying really hard, and this is hard for me, I don't know how hard it will be for you, to not pretty it up. Because it's hard for me to not do that, to not want to come in and make that prettier, prettier, prettier. I'm going to come in with a little bit of yellow. Adding elements to this outside edge. And here as well. Ah, see, this is one of those things, it's so hard, and then you start to get there and you're like, oh, wait, I'm seeing it, and actually, I think I know where I'm going now. So ride with me. I am going to draw some books here.
Gonna put some bookends on your home. You saying you're at home in books?
I am saying that books are important. Very, very important. And I'm going to write some words that I feel about that. And then I'm going to come back with my brush here and get back into my colors again. Painting back in 1/4 inch brush. I may need to dry this to do this part, so let's dry it and then we'll come back and we'll hit it.
Now
all right,
we are
still on my 1/4 inch angle brush, and I'm going to come into some yellow again. I really just needed to make sure that the black wasn't going to come through. And then I think I'm going to come in with some white, and I'm going to kind of cross out these words because I don't like them. Right, so I had written in ban is bad, bad, and I've got my books here. You can write whatever is meaningful to you. It's just up to you, and I'm not here to tell you what that is. I'm going to add a little bit of that. I'm going to come back with my white Posca over the word home again. I'm really actually kind of liking this. Like now, once like I got into the roughness of it, into the difficulty of it, I kind of am just loving it. And it's hard,
Yeah.
right? It may not be some of y'all's favorite to do, and it might be some of
Sometimes.
y'all's favorite. I don't know. I'm going to take a little bit of my blue, and I'm going to make a little mark here and then like a vertical one here. And I may come in and take some white and maybe yellow. And I'm going to add some of that there, which I like. And I'm going to grab my black. I'm going to do right there. I'll come back with some white paint in a minute to do that. I got to dry everything and then I can come back and add some details. So I'm back with my white Posca pen. You could use a detail brush. And I'm going to come and add a sort of negation that is necessary and kind of the scribbling. I'm going to come over the house again with some anchoring lines. Kind of scratch that out as you do, as we all do. Adding a line there. And also kind of giving it some energetic disruption there. Sometimes I have to pull this down. And it can be sometimes easier to do this with a brush. Kind of get that going in there. Okay, man, tough. This was a hard one for me. I'm not gonna lie, but I got there. Neo-Expressionism, the hardest type of abstract. Wow. Sometimes you have to strain yourself. You have to put yourself out there. You have to give yourself an assignment creatively that is really outside of your natural scope and range. You know, I kind of didn't know if I was going to add this into the series, but it's important, and we're not doing paint pouring, and we're not really splattering, you know, paint, and there's some stuff that we're not doing for mess. So I wanted to make sure that we tried to cover a little bit of everything. So that was the intent here. It definitely is going to require evaluation. It's amazing how it just is what it is. I'm interested to know what you guys thought of it. Is this the hardest day
I like it.
of Acrylic
I
April? Do
liked it.
you?
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
I think John would say he liked it no matter what, though. But does it kind of talk a little bit about our experience?
I think it does.
You know?
I can see where you talk about your experience in there for sure.
Can you?
Yeah.
Yeah. You wanna narrate any of it?
I,
So what does this painting represent, John?
I think our struggle, and that we're working on getting there. I think a lot of people can relate to this. You're wanting to be hopeful for a home and leave your fears behind you, and that's what I think.
I think that's really what it is. And I faced the type of abstract that I'm most terrified of. I respect it. Like, it's in my top. I respect abstract styles. It's just also sometimes when I look at it, I was like, I could never get there. And I'm kind of, I'm like super proud of this little dude down here.
Mm-hmm.
Very proud. Weird little ugly guy, which is kind of wonderful. Maybe that's my home goblin,
Ah,
right? Like there's a drink goblin.
yeah.
I have a coffee goblin. Maybe he's my coffee goblin. I don't know. It's going to be interesting when you guys see this. Listen, lots of different styles this month. Trying to introduce you to a lot of different stuff and get you out of your comfort zone and break some ground on you to help you understand maybe stuff that you're resistant to. Am I going to do Twombly? This is probably as close as any of that is going to go.
Yep.
Right. So I had to pick for the fear abstract, I had to pick somebody I loved as inspiration. And I think that that's always really good. I leave things in the description below. I hide them there. It's very performance art. Down. This is the performance art piece of it.
It's the interactive,
oh my gosh,
experiential
I kind of want to do a joke
art.
painting, like where we're like, this is a painting.
See, this is what happens when you get into abstract. It just leads you down the road.
This is art. This is a painting. This is art. This is a painting. But we're not going to do that either. The closest we're going to come to performance art is hiding the information that you need in the description down below. If you would like to see the book, if you'd like to see the classes, if you would like to go to the store and get some of those crazy Posca pens, which are clearly super awesome. Whatever it is that you want, I've got it hidden down there. So be sure to check that. Subscribe. Because if you love this, at least we have one. And if you don't, it's the only one we're ever going to do. Because that was hard emotionally.
Yeah.
I probably grew a lot, though, as a human being. It's hard to say. All right. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. I want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.